Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Almost Jewish Talks. I'm Birag and today I have a very special guest. And just before we get there, the reason I'm going to bring you interviews for the next couple of months is because I believe that we can shift the narrative about Jewish people and Israel if we understand them better, if we talk with Israeli and Jewish people. So that is the aim here, to shift the narrative one interview at a time. And today my special guest is really an honor to talk with you, Sami Steigmann. Hi Sami, thank you very much for joining me today.
My pleasure, my honor.
So we actually met in a film screening in New York City, and something you don't know because you quickly told me your story that night. So I came home and I was so interested in your story and what you went through that I was just Googling your name and read all the articles about you, and I was sure that one day I will have the platform to make sure that your story is heard. So can you please bring us back in time a little bit and tell us, where did your story start? Where were you born? What was the surrounding back then?
Okay. When I go to schools and I talk to kids, I ask them, how's it possible that I was born in 3 different countries? They look at me. Obviously, the city where I was born, Chernovitz, was part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. As the border shifted, so did my nationality. So when I was born, it belonged to Romania, later became part of the former Soviet Union. And today, my passport, it says that I was born in Ukraine. As a matter of fact, I was in Ukraine with my parents, but we were in a labor camp. Being too young, year and a half, obviously I could not work, did not have the skill. So my life was saved because they did medical experiments on me. I hope that you will understand what I'm going to say is my mind has forgotten, my body still remembers. And later on came a time that I was dying of starvation. And there are physical signs. The woman that brought food to the guards in the SS, a German woman, decided to give me milk. And by doing that, she risked the life of her entire family, because if she would have been caught giving me milk, her entire family would have been killed.
So let's stop for a second and let's make sure that everybody understands that you are one of the youngest Holocaust survivors today. And your story, as opposed to other Holocaust survivors, is very special because, as you mentioned, you were a victim of Nazi medical experimentation. So when did you got to know? Because as you said, you don't really remember the experience from the camp as you were a baby. So when did you learn that actually you were, a victim of all these kind of things that happened there?
I will have to go back to also to give you the background, but let me answer your question. I found out probably when I was around 40 years old. All my life I was in pain. I used extremely heavy medication, and back pain and some other types of pain, you have to show it. I am, on the other hand, a very stoic person, and although I knew how it will affect me, I did whatever the doctors told me, but you could not see it on my face. So, like for instance, back pain, there is no test that can prove it. So a lot of the doctors did not believe me that I have the back pain. Okay. What happened is I was very good in hiding it from my parents. And one day, my parents never knew about it. And one day, I could not hide it. I was in such pain that I could not hide it from my parents. And I think that my father inadvertently, I don't think that he intended to tell me that, but inadvertently he told me that I was subjected to medical experiments.
why would you hide something like this from your parents, or why wouldn't, for example, they tell you that, look, Sami, that is what you went through, prepare for, something in life?
Well, let me back it up. How did I become a motivational speaker? When did I start speaking? Why? So if I'm going to give you the background, you will be able to understand. For 63 years, I felt that I don't belong. I felt I don't belong to the Holocaust survivors generation. That's my parent generation, because I was too young and I have absolutely no memories of that period of time. I know other people that say that they can remember, but I'm convinced that that's what their parents told me. But I'm not arguing with them. I personally do not remember anything. I also felt that I do not belong to the second generation, because most of the kids were born after the war and they did not go through what I went through. So I knew that I'm a survivor, but I always ignored it. And something happened in November 1st, November 2nd of 2003. And this is something that's very important, that when I go to schools, I teach them the difference between history and living history. And something happened, okay, like I told you, November 1st, November 2nd, 2003, the Holocaust Museum of Washington, D.C. closed its doors to the general public for 2 days. It opened it up only to the Holocaust survivors, their children, and their liberators. There were over 8,000 people from all over the world. And I'm going to teach you a word in Yiddish, bashert, meant to be. At the table where I was sitting, I met a man born in the same city, been in the same camp, okay, the same years, 1941, 1944. He was taken when he was 8 months old. I was taken when I was a year and a half. Meeting somebody like me propelled me to do something about it. In 2007, I joined the Holocaust Museum in Washington, here in Manhattan, downtown, the Jewish Heritage Museum, a living memorial to the Holocaust. That's it. So anyway, so I joined it. And in 2008, I gave my first presentation to 6th graders. I did not know that I can tell a story. I had no personal story to tell. I did not know what impact I will have on young people. And if you remember the word bashert, the kids, the 6th graders, sent me thank you letters. One kid wrote, "Your story was overwhelming, and I promise I will pass your story to my children." And because of her, I have decided to dedicate the rest of my life to reach as many young people as I can. And right now, as a motivational speaker, I also I am proactive. I want to be confronted. I want to go to universities like Berkeley, UC Davis. Okay. I was in Columbus, so I want to be proactive, because there is right now a problem with the new, right? And the new form of anti-Semitism is being anti-Zionism, anti-Israel. So I want to be confronted, and I don't represent anybody. I represent myself and give them my talk. But I also want to be invited. Hopefully, I still have the energy. I still can travel. So hopefully, I will be invited internationally. So I want to be known internationally.
So we learned so much from you, and I remember on the website you say that I am not what happens to me, but what I choose to be. And so I will think that, when you get to know that you were a victim of such medical experiments, didn't you feel like, okay, I am a victim? So that, I'm gonna suffer so much because of what happened to me. So how could you change this, from a victim to become a survivor who is actually so positive, so filled with the love towards life? How?
Well, I will put it in a different way. All my life I've been an optimist, and even my mother would not understand where I took that optimism from. And I volunteered for Make-A-Wish Foundation, and a kid, I took him out volunteering for another organization, Big Apple Greeter, and I showed them the city. That was in 2002. In 2004, he came back and he wanted to see me again, and he brought me a simple button. And sometimes a small object, a word, a sentence can change your perspective on life. The button in the center was his picture. In the bottom, I still remember November 2004, the date that he was completely cured. He was a young kid, he had leukemia. In the top, it said survivor. For the first time, I was able to understand why I was always an optimist. Okay? With everything that I went through in life, and I went through a life, I have never ever felt like a victim. I was always a survivor. And I teach the young people, okay, never to act like victims. As victims, they can blame anybody, any circumstance. Nothing will change, they will not achieve their goal. But if they will act as survivors, everything that they want in life will be theirs.
That is like a beautiful message, and I understand, really the why behind why you became a motivational speaker. But now that I live in New York City as well, I meet so many people who simply have no idea what the Holocaust was. So I keep on being shocked by the lack of understanding, lack of knowledge of history. So do you meet people who question your story? Do you meet people who are still, either don't know anything about the Holocaust or they deny? So how would you react if that happens?
Well, I start speaking to, I have the same presentation, and I start speaking to fourth graders. I feel that kids are not too young to understand, and I have no problem for young people, fourth graders, to stay with me for an hour and a half. Okay. I am very open. I let them take selfies if they want. I let them hug me if they want. I let them do nothing if they want. I let them be whoever they are. But I've also met people that know nothing about the Holocaust. But for me, my life story, the Holocaust, are just the background. It is not that important. What is important to me is to teach them to be the best that they can be, not sometimes, but to strive to be at all times. To teach them never to give up, never to lose hope, to use me as an example. I was homeless. I live in Manhattan on a monthly income of $1,219. I have many reasons to be angry, to be bitter, and yet I choose, like I said before, I choose to be happy and to live within my means. I also teach them, which is also very, very important, okay, to find healthy substitute to difficult situations, And I give him an example that I have 2 grandchildren and I'm not allowed to see them. How do you overcome something like that without being bitter? When I have a friend and they come and they talk to me about their grandchildren, instead of saying, oh, I've heard enough, I don't want to hear about it, I want to know more and more. And I tell them that's very important to find a healthy substitute. And my healthy substitute is my need. It's not a want. My need to teach and to share, I cannot do it with my grandchildren. So therefore, for the 2 hours that the kids are with me, they become my grandchildren. And you cannot imagine my joy and my happiness when I receive letters from the kids and they tell me I'm so happy that for 2 hours I was able to be your grandchild. So again, to restate, I want to make sure to use me as an example, never to give up, never to lose hope. Tomorrow is a new day. It's a fresh day. Okay? What happened in the past is gone. Don't dwell on it. The future is not come. You know something? I'm sure that you know it. We call a gift by another word, present. Each day is a present. Each day is a gift. So I tell the kids, live in the present and make the best of it and enjoy whatever life is given.
So much wisdom here, Sami, and I would like to adopt you as my grandfather, if I may. I always miss, having like...
It would have been my honor.
I always miss the grandfather model, so I would really need all this wisdom from you. And I know that you are so if you go back and make more specific about Israel and the Jewish people, this talk, then I know that you are very much an activist here in New York. Whenever it comes to, Israel-related events, you are there. And I know that almost everybody knows you're really in New York City. So I know that you did live in Israel for quite some time. And show me your t-shirt and show us your t-shirt. So tell us about your background in Israel. But what I also eventually want to understand is, why did you leave Israel? Why didn't you find peace and home in Israel after all the stories that you went through?
In telling my story, can I tell you a joke?
Sure.
Okay. In 1947, in the small town where we lived in Transylvania, young people came through our small town on their way to go to Palestine, okay, to settle it and to build it up and to develop it. When I came in to Israel in 61, even in 62, okay, there were no homes. As far as the eye could see, was only sand. Israel was not yet fully developed. Interestingly enough, one of the guys came to me and he says, do you want to go to Palestine? And I was not even 7 years old. And I said, no. Are you a Zionist? I said, no. He said, I'll circumcise you. I said, I am going to Palestine. I am now a Zionist. So you can see fear can decide to change your life. So I've been a Zionist, like my father, all my life. In Israel, I served in the Israeli Air Force. Okay, and from my father's side, only 42 people survived. No, from approximately 42 people, only 2 people survived. My father and my uncle. My uncle was not a survivor. He was a refugee in China. Okay, in 1952, he came to the United States, and the 2 brothers met in 1966 for the first time in 47 years. Okay, so while I was in the military, I wanted to meet my uncle, but my aunt in 1962-63 developed breast cancer, and in those days that was a death sentence. So I finished my military, I started my career, and I forgot about traveling. But especially my mother and my father kept her company She said, "You're almost 29 years old. You're still single. Why don't you travel?" And that traveling bug, left me. But it kept bugging me, and I said, "Okay, I will apply to go as an immigrant," knowing that at that time in my passport it said I was born in the former Soviet Union. And I knew, then I knew that based on the quota coming from a communist country, it would take 5 years. So I said, I will apply. Who knows what happens in 5 years? And in the meantime, my parents will get off my back. So instead of the quota based on the country of origin, within about 2 or 3 months, it was based on the profession. And here it is, without money, without the language, take it or leave it. And I decided to come. So I came to the States in 1968, after the 6-Day War.
Wow. So you did serve during the 6-Day War?
Yes, I was in Israel at that time, and like I told you, I served in the Israeli Air Force. I worked at the most sophisticated plane at that time that they had, and that was the Mirage 3.
I need to look that up on Google. It makes no sense to me, but I will do so. So, Sami, you actually said that you are a Zionist, and yet you are not living in Israel at the moment, and you chose New York City as your home. How is it fitting together? Why did you choose the US over Israel?
Well, when I came here, without money, without the language, it was extremely difficult to make it. But I'm not a quitter. And it took a while for me to be able to make it. And after 5 years, I said, okay, it's time to go back. But I met my ex. Okay, so I stayed for another 10 years. And in 1983, I went back to Israel with absolutely no intention of ever coming back to the States. My mother, being a very sensitive woman, noticed that I became more American than Israeli. And she said, if you ever want to go back, you have my blessing. And I said, Mother, don't joke, because one day I'll just come and I'll say goodbye. She said, fine. In 1998, I came back to the States. New York was not my final destination. It was just a stopover because I did not want to go back where my ex and my son were living. So again, I came at the height of the inflation, no money. The apartment that I had was $400 a month. I had to take a job, and one thing led to another, and eventually New York is my last destination.
We never know what's the last destination, but I know that you are very much loved and honored in New York City, and I see, you are so active that I think you're attending more even than I do and my generation does, so I think it's really amazing. Sami, I have a question to you, because you see now Israel and you are living in a diaspora, basically. So what do you think is the biggest misconception about Israel and the Jewish people in general?
It's a very difficult question to answer in a couple of sentences. One way that I explain it to the students is that in Jewish culture, and it's not only Jewish culture, Japanese also believe in that, is studying is one of the most important things in life. And it's whether religiously you study, going to schools, universities, and the parents will do everything possible that you will have a better life, okay, achieve more than they did. And if somebody has not achieved some of the things the Jewish people have achieved by studying, okay, by applying themselves, there are two ways that you can reach their level. Is number one, you can study and you can apply yourself to be at their level, or you can bring them down. And when different times are difficult, instead of taking responsibility for what you did or didn't do, okay, basically it's easy to blame. And the Jews have always was an easy thing to blame. They blame, for instance, to give an example with Israel. And they take that in Israel there's a genocide of the Palestinians. And I tell people, I want you to have a certain opinion, a certain belief, but based on facts, on the correct information, and fight like hell for what you believe. But your decision should not be made strictly on emotion. And I'll give an example. In 1948, during the Independence War, 700,000 Palestinians, for whatever reason, not going into details, left Israel. On the other hand, the same amount of people left the Arab countries. Today in Israel, there are 2.5 million Palestinians. In the whole Arab countries, there are only 10,000 Jews. Where is the genocide? So without going into all the other details and everything else, right now, Israel is a developed country. When I came to Israel, it was not developed. Israel was a marsh. There was nothing there. They built it up. They have in Gaza. They have in Judah and Shomron. They have their own authority, the PA. How come they are so poor? Israel is giving them money. United States is giving them money. Where are the homes? Where are the things? Okay, so they purposely, the leadership, it's not the people necessarily, but the leadership is keeping him in the dire situation to use him against Israel. And I say violence begets violence, and with violence they're not going to achieve their goals with them.
Right. You know, I think I don't even know if it's actually possible to change people's mind simple by talking with them and giving them arguments.
That's not my purpose. I go, for instance, I went to Bergen Community College, and I was confronted by two Palestinians, and I will have to give them credit. They were very polite. They were not disruptive, very polite, and everything else. I talked to them, but I knew that I would not change their opinion. By talking to them, I actually addressed the audience. They need to be changed. The Palestinians, whoever attacked me or asked me the questions, they already made up their mind based on emotions. I'm not going to change their opinion. My goal is talking to them to address the audience. And the way I look at it, if I can change only one person's opinion, I have succeeded.
I can't agree more. And I echo you that I think the importance of education is so important here, because you know partially my story, how I shifted to become where I am today, and I was very negligence towards the history of Israel. I knew very little. I was very reluctant to go to Israel. And then I get a Jewish boyfriend and he takes me to Israel and my whole world shakes up. And I understand now how important is it to learn and study. And I agree with you. Even if just one person makes the effort to understand more about the conflict, it's just the domino rolling, right?
One of the things that I also want to tell you, I am promoting harmony in the world, reconciliation. So a lot of the Holocaust survivors would have not done what I did. But I was invited to go to Germany to meet with descendants of high-ranking Nazi criminals.
Wow.
We talked.
Uh-huh.
Okay, we bonded. And we parted as friends.
No way.
So at the same time, I also teach the young people that there is a difference between genocide and Holocaust. Genocide is the murder of a group of people. Geno, which means a group, side, murder. Holocaust, on the other hand, is the annihilation of a group of people. So I differentiate this. And I also tell them, because I try to bring it to the present, and I also tell them that in my opinion, ISIS, the Nazis, were not regular criminals. They had an ideology. An ideology cannot be destroyed by guns. It's only through education. And that is my goal, okay, in life. And I'll go anywhere, wherever they want me to, okay, and to educate people. And if I can, I have been quite successful. But if I look at the point that if I change one person's perspective on life, I'm not going to change them. All my goal is to change their perspective on life. The change they have to do.
Indeed. So before we finish up this interview, Sami, I want you to answer me one question that is always fascinates me, and that is a returning question for me to all the guests. What does being Jewish mean to you?
It's the way it is. Can you explain to me what does it mean to you be a girl?
A lot of things. It's complex. Agree.
I'm Jewish. That's me. There is nothing, it's what is important. A lot of the people do not have a very strong foundation about their religion, about their culture, whatever it is, and they're looking for something. I am grounded. I have a very strong foundation. I will respect your opinion because I teach about tolerance. Tolerance, in my opinion, is accepting other people's opinion, accepting other people's culture. All I'm asking in return, okay, to accept mine. I don't have to agree with you. You don't have to agree with me, but I have to respect that you have a different opinion, a different culture. So for me, being Jewish is like being a man, I don't know anything else. I can't explain it. I was born Jewish. I live as a Jew, although I am not practicing anymore. I grew up as an Orthodox, with the Orthodox way. But I will die as a Jew. And people have tried to tell me about Christianity, about things like that, whatever it is. And I said, I respect what you do, but you have to respect that I'm not going to change.
Thank you.
I don't know if I answered you.
Yes, you answered me.
There's no answer.
It's a complex thing. I understand. It just fascinates me, the layers of Judaism, the layers of being Jewish, you know. So like when I go to Israel and I go to the different Shabbat dinners, there is not same type and kind and level of Jewishness, you know. For Jewishness means something else for everybody, and I think that is just one of the main core elements of being a Jew.
One of the things, talking about this one, a lot of people, especially in the intermarriage, they keep both holidays, Hanukkah and Christmas. I personally don't agree with it. I respect it, but I don't agree with that because it does not give you strong roots. Okay? I don't care if you want to be Christian. I don't want to if you want to be Jewish. But be rooted and have the strong roots. And at that particular time, you don't have to look for something else, okay, to find yourself or whatever it is. In my particular case, maybe because of me, because of my parents, for whatever reason is, I am grounded. And once you're grounded, you cannot be moved.
Sami, how can people get in touch with you if they want to know more about you, or if they want to invite you to speak at an event or in a college? How can they find you?
Thank you. Okay. You want I'll give you my telephone numbers?
Or you have a website, if I know, and you are on Facebook?
Website. It's very simple. SamiSpeaks.com. By the way, I am a motivational speaker. As a motivational speaker, I do not charge. I am not doing it to make a living. I am doing it because I want to reach as many young people as I can. I also know that some schools, some people cannot afford it. However, after many years, I was finally convinced, okay, that if somebody wants to donate money or give me a gift, to accept it graciously. So I will accept if something is offered, but I do not charge. To give an example, this is very important. I'm going to be invited to go to Mexico, possibly for 2 weeks. It will be Mexico City and Guadalajara. In Guadalajara, they have a lot of universities. The person that is promoting me, that wants me to come to Mexico, he lives in Mexico. And he wants to make sure, knowing my situation, that I will get paid. And he's not going to call it a fee, he's going to ask for a donation. Okay. Just to give an example, even if you have 500 people and everybody gives $10, it's $5,000. And I went to him and I said, Joe, I don't want the money. All I want is pay for the expenses and the accommodation. If somebody's willing to accommodate in their homes, you don't have to pay for the hotel. The rest of the money, what you raise, I want you to do me one favor. And he looked at me and said, what? I said, use it as a scholarship for the poor children.
Such an incredible person you are, Sami, really. I mean, we have so much to learn from you. It was an honor to have you with me, and I wish you only the best. And I hope that thousands and thousands of people will hear your message. Really, I only wish that. And I'm going to finish this interview with another saying from you. Never ever be a bystander. Right? I love that you are saying that, because we all have a role as individuals in shaping our future. And by not being a bystander, we create a better world. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you in person very soon in Manhattan.
But then before we leave,
yes,
I want to wish you a happy, healthy new year and much success in everything that you do. And I'm very proud to be associated with you. You have embarked on a fascinating journey, and you're discovering things not only about Judaism, but you're discovering a lot of things about yourself. And it's a fascinating journey, and I wish a lot of people will learn from you, and you have something to offer. And I'm very honored and very proud to be associated with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye. Thank you.
Keep in touch.